Welcome to the Popcorn Wine Down with Tammy and Eddie. Grab your popcorn, get yourself a glass of wine, and come hang out with us as we discuss TV shows, movies, music, and pop culture.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wine Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us this week as we will be talking about Netflix's Never Have I Ever. But first, let's get to the wine down. We have some release updates, Tammy. Don't cry. Please don't cry. But Wonder Woman has been pushed back until Christmas. So it has a Christmas Day release as of now.
I feel like next they're going to be telling me it's not coming out until next summer.
Well, prepare yourself for that. That may be a possibility, but I just wanted to break it to you gently and get that out of the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, the Dune trailer was released and it looks interesting. That movie is scheduled right now to be released on the 18th of December.
Did you say it looks interesting?
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't know what the movie is supposed to be about, I have no idea what that movie is supposed to be about. But I'm still going to go see it because I love Zendaya. But yeah.
I want to say it's based on a video game from way back, but it's kind of like a Mad Max-ish thing. If you haven't seen the original movie, which I think is like from the 80s or what have you. So this is a remake, and I love Zendaya too, and it looks interesting. So I do want to see it, but it is going to come out December 18th. Candyman has been pushed back till next year. Those are the movie updates. Saturday Night Live is looking like it's going to fulfill its promise to return before the election. They go back into production next month in October. And the after sequels, after books in the series 3 and 4 have been greenlit into movies. So the second one hasn't even come out yet, which I find surprising, but we'll see. Hopefully they have high hopes for it if they're already greenlighted. It's
a really popular book series, so that could be why.
Yeah, the first movie I thought was interesting. I thought it was cute, so I'll follow along with it. I've seen worse, so we'll see. And Keeping Up with the Kardashians is ending. They announced the ending. It's
that's ending so sad.
I can tell you sound heartbroken about it. It's ending after 20 seasons. I think maybe I stopped watching after season 1. Maybe
never
2.
Watched it. Not a fan.
Well, I'm not a big fan of reality shows, so I figure, yeah, but they've had a long run. That is a long run for a reality show that's not Survivor or something that's like action-based or something like that. So, big ups to the Kardashians. I'm sure they'll find something else to do. And speaking of television, there's a story that came across about Brian Austin Green. And when I was thinking of Kardashians, my mind went to Beverly Hills 90210 for some reason. So make that connection. But he posted some pictures on Instagram of his young sons that he shares with Megan Fox. And they have long hair, his sons. And they're cute little boys, but they have really long hair. And he took a lot of heat for that. He got a lot of smoke for them having such long hair. And I thought that was just ridiculous.
Because they saying that, they look like girls. And I'm just like, no, that's more on you than it is on them. Like, because when you have grown men with long hair and they put it into a ponytail, you got women going crazy over that. But y'all are making such a huge deal over young kids having long hair. Like, come on.
Yeah,
like, cause now is not the time. Like, they'll do what they do. Like, let them figure it out on their own.
Yeah, like people went crazy. I know when Jason Momoa just cut some of his hair. He cut some off for Locks of Love or something. He did it for charity a couple years back, and people were so mad.
They went
and
buck wild with that.
Yeah, so, but I was just like, first of all, they're not your kids. Second of all, they are just kids. So why are you trying to put your gender norms on them? It doesn't make them any less little boys or whatever just because they have long hair. I think that's stupid. I really, really hate seeing that. And from Brian Austin Green, we have other news about 90s sitcoms and 90s TV stars. We talked about it last week. The Fresh Prince reboot has been awarded to Peacock, I guess I would say. There was apparently a bidding war between the Peacock network and Netflix, and Peacock actually won that bidding war. And so they have greenlit the first 2 seasons of the Fresh Prince reboot. I'm interested to see what it's going to be like because it's supposed to be a drama rather than a comedy. So that would be,
my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, it's going to be a dramatic reboot. So it's probably going to run like an hour. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but like I said, I'm interested to see. Will Smith is going to be executive producing. And also, speaking of the Fresh Prince, they're going to have a reunion show with everyone except for Uncle Phil, who unfortunately passed away in 2013. And so that's going to air, I believe, sometime in October. But the really interesting part, besides having the whole cast back, is that Will and the OG Aunt Viv, Janet Hubert, finally have buried the hatchet, it seems, or they made amends, or they had a conversation after 27 years. It was some bad blood. They had a
grown person conversation about the nonsense.
Yeah, 27 years of drama. That's a long time to have some drama, but
it is.
I guess they both went in their grown people bag and said, hey, let's squash this. So I'll be interested I'll definitely turn in just to see how they make amends and, how that goes. But so that's some interesting news from there. Also, in other TV news, did you hear about the Dear White People drama?
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit here and there, but I still don't understand why, it's racial discrimination. From what I read, from different articles that I read, I was just that has nothing to do with race. It wasn't your race that made you lose a job.
Yeah,
saying that they weren't going to pay you what you wanted to get paid, and so you bounced at the end story.
Yeah. So for those of you who may not know what we're talking about, Jeremy Tardy, who was a recurring actor on the show Dear White People, he's not returning for the 4th season, and he claims it was because of racial discrimination by Lionsgate, who produces the show, and also Netflix. And once I read it, and that you can't take those claims lightly anymore, especially in this day and age and times that we're living in. So once I read it, I agree with Tammy. It didn't seem like racial discrimination. It just seemed like you need some new representation to get you the money that you want. He and 6 other actors, they decided to band together to make their negotiating stance stronger. And Netflix or Lionsgate wouldn't cut side deals with these actors. They took the money. He didn't. I mean, what does that have to do with race?
Exactly. And you're come on. At the end of the day, the last season, you were an insignificant character in the first 2 seasons, and then you actually got some type of storyline in the 3rd season. You were not significant enough to really be coming out like this. No. It had nothing to do with your race. I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't find anything to substantiate those claims. It just seemed like it was business. And that business in general, especially when it comes to money and negotiations, can be pretty cutthroat. So, the people who were on the island with you, they took the deal to get off the island and you got left there. So that's what that comes down to. But also in a story that has to do with racial diversity, the Oscars, the Academy, the Movie Academy, they've come out with new rules going into effect 2024 about the pictures that will be eligible for Best Movie category. And to be honest, I read the rules, and some of it I agree with, some of it I disagree with. I actually kind of have mixed feelings about what the Motion Picture Academy came up with. And some of that includes that, I do agree that you should have a diverse cast. So one of them is that, you need to have lead actors or significant actors, significant supporting actors who come from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. So,
but it would depend on the story, though. Like I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, like I can understand like them wanting to nominate more diverse films. Well, then give those diverse films a chance. Because I think it's really on the fact that there is not enough production and distribution of films with diverse casts. But you have a lot of films that have been nominated for Oscars that just don't work with a diverse cast. Like it's a white person story. It's in a white suburbs, and so you got to force a minority character onto the movie in order to possibly be nominated for an Oscar. I mean, it's
without playing into the stereotype.
Yeah, without playing into the stereotype and saying, oh, look at that. Okay, that's the one black character. They did good. Like, no.
And the one black character doesn't get killed off in the first 5 minutes.
Come on. Like, I get what they're trying to do. And I think it's a great start because I think Hollywood is finally acknowledging the fact that underlying Hollywood is they have racist undertones. They really, really do. And
racist and sexist.
Yes. And it's finally being addressed, especially with 2 years in a row. Trending during the Oscars was Oscars so white 2 years in a row. So I definitely agree that something needed to be done. But
and I think
to force people to do that, like, come on.
And I think Parasite winning, like Parasite just coming up and taking everybody by storm. And newsflash, Tammy still has not watched Parasite. I'm working on it.
And newsflash, I ain't never gonna watch it. I'm sorry.
She watches K-dramas but won't watch Parasite. That's an ongoing argument.
K-dramas is the same storyline, different actors, but there's certain elements to it. Parasite, I feel like gonna make me think too much. Like I don't do deep dramas. I don't watch deep dramas that are in English. So anyway, watching a deep drama in Korean is just not my thing.
That's still an argument we're gonna have. I'm determined to win it, to just at least make her watch Parasite once. But back to this, I think Parasite winning last year, surprising everybody, kind of opened their eyes that if you do, like you say, if you do give these movies a chance, if you promote them right, then it gives them an opportunity to see what they can do. But just having a diverse cast isn't the only thing. You also have to have creative leadership and project team, minorities and telling underrepresented stories, give access to job opportunities and things of that nature, internships to these underrepresented groups. So it's a bunch of standards that are listed. You don't have to meet all of them, just 50% of them. So you can still have your all white story if that's the story you're telling and if that's what it lends to. But the cast should be diverse. So there are different ways where you can meet this criteria. It doesn't have to be met 100%. 50% of it should be met. And like I said, I'm still sitting on it. I understand what they're trying to do. I have mixed feelings about it. I guess feeling like you have to be forced to do this. Would it be performative? Would someone just say, hey, I have a great movie, but my production team doesn't have enough people in here. Let me add this person to this team so I can meet the standards. So that's what I'm worried about there just being performative hires or something of that nature. But the rules don't go into effect for another 4 years. So we'll see how that happens. And maybe by then it'll just become commonplace to have a more diverse, not only cast or set or tell more diverse stories, things of that nature. So we'll just see how it works out. But it's interesting that is a step that they took. And it was met with some backlash and some just people out and out supporting it. So it's been a mixed bag of reactions about that as well. And speaking of Parasite and K-dramas, this week in our K-pop news, Our boys from BTS have done it again. This is their second week in a row sitting at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with Dynamite. And if you have not heard Dynamite, you probably haven't turned on a radio or anything. The song is amazing. It's a great summer bop. So I suggest you listen to it.
But you know, like I was telling you yesterday how I finally like sat down, like one of my friends who, when I kept telling her about BTS and how much I love them, like she was just so thrown off that it was a group that sang in Korean and rapped in Korean that I was like so in love with. So she was just like, no, you're not gonna, I'm not sitting down, I'm not listening to any of their songs. She kind of had the attitude that I had when I first heard about them. And then I actually was just like, okay, silence, mute the TV. I played the song, and from the first beat, she was dancing. She was moving around her living room, and she was just like, this is nice. Like, okay, She was doing the electric slide and everything with it. So I will say, for anyone who hasn't listened to Dynamite, you will love it because she was a hard sell and she loves the song. So please just sit down and listen to the song.
Yeah, if you don't listen to anything else from BTS, listen to Dynamite. And, you know, it is in English, so I think it would be more palatable to those who don't want to, who are just skeptical about listening to Korean. But, you know, it gets to the point where you don't even know it's in Korean when you're listening to BTS, like I said before, because I find myself humming along and trying to learn the words in Korean. But also, there is a new group, a co-ed K-pop group, which is really rare. They're going to be debuting in 2 weeks, called Checkmate. So I'm going to keep an ear out for Checkmate, and maybe we'll have some news and let you know how they are.
Never know. I could start off as a fan from the beginning. You never know. It could surprise you.
You never know. It could surprise you. So stay tuned, and we will get into our review of Never Have I Ever. This week, we will be reviewing Netflix's hit series, Never Have I Ever, which is about 15-year-old Devi Vishkumar, who is trying to recover from a tumultuously tragic freshman year. And she decides going into her sophomore year that she and her friends will rebrand themselves, and that's when the chaos starts. This series is loosely based on Mindy Kaling's own childhood, and I happen to love Mindy Kaling, so that kind of gives you an idea of where I was leaning towards this series. So Tammy, what did you think about Never Have I Ever?
I'm also a huge fan of Mindy Kaling, so I really did love the series. I thought it was great. I thought it was really interesting on how it depicted being an Indian American teenager growing up in, I guess, Western society, however, you know, they want to call it. So I really, really did enjoy it. And then in addition to that, like I have watched like Hassan Minhaj when he's doing interviews of Indian teenagers. And it's very, very similar to what the character went through on the show. So there's confirmation. So I did enjoy it.
I liked it too. I really did. It wasn't quite what I expected for a teen show. It kind of exceeded my expectations for a teen show. I let me put it that way. I was going in with low expectations, thinking it would be kind of goofy or silly, but I really, really enjoyed the show. And I do love how it focused on her Indian American culture and some of the culture conflicts coming from a traditional Indian family and then growing up here in America. The marriage of those two cultures, so to speak, was kind of funny in a lot of ways, especially when you look at it from a teen's perspective. So it was great. One of the things I also really loved, one of my favorite characters who I feel did not get enough airtime, and I hope we see more of in the second season. Spoiler alert, it has been renewed for a second season. I loved Niecy Nash's character as the therapist.
The doctor, right? The therapist
was amazing. Like, just some of the looks she would give Davy. Like when Davy went,
she looked so done with her every single session that they had. She was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, are we doing this again?
Yes, like no. what was it when Davy told her she was going to her first party and she was like, can you buy me some condoms or something? My mom won't do it. And she just looked at her like, hell no. And then she was like, well, can you at least buy me some alcohol since it's my first no parents party? And she's just like, get out.
She's like, bye.
So I loved her character. I hope we see more of the therapist because as we're going to get into, Davy needs it. One of the things I also found that I liked from the beginning, which was kind of weird, was John McEnroe was the narrator of the series. And you come to find out, Mindy Kaling told a story about how she got John McEnroe to do it. She just saw him at a random event and she was like, hey, I have this idea for this series and I really want you to be a part of it. And he's like, okay, what is it? And then when she sent it to him and he saw it, he was like, how does this? And then he realized that what his connection to the series would be. He was down for it. He loved it. So I love him as the commentator and just some of the shade and side comments he throws. Like it adds a different perspective and dimension to it.
I love how you just talked about somebody that I've never ever heard of a day in my life.
John McEnroe is a tennis player. Like he was the bad boy.
But I'm just saying that, yeah, I ain't never heard of that dude before. I watched the show.
Oh my God. Well, you're not a sports fan either. I love sports. And he was a little before my time as far as, being able to actually see him play live. But I've heard the lure being a sports fan and especially loving tennis. I've heard the lure and I've seen the videos of John McEnroe and yeah, he went off. Like he was a hothead. Like you kind of get it because Davy's temper and her character, she relates a lot to John McEnroe as far as how he would treat lines judges and go off and throw his tennis racket. So those temper tantrums, he invented them. So I guess that would be the connection. Plus he was her dad's favorite character. And that's one thing I also enjoyed, even though it's a sad part of the story, is how they dealt with her dad's death. It wasn't something that they just wrapped up, oh, my dad died last year, and so now I'm over it. You really saw the ramifications and how she dealt with that, her grief process. And it wasn't very pretty at times, but I liked how they dealt with it in a very real way.
It wasn't pretty ever. She was selfish. She was self-absorbed. She was just so, oh my God, like she was a horrible friend through majority of the series with her two best friends. She did not deal with her father's death at all. I think it's partly because she was never close to her mom. She was only close to her dad. Her dad was the one that she had that type of relationship with. And so when he died, it was kind of like, you left me with this woman. I don't know who this woman is. Now we got to figure out how to, coexist in this house and everything like that. But I do think she was a typical teenager. I do love the fact that they did portray her as a typical teenager. She has very selfish moments. If it wasn't about her, then she could care less about what was going on around her, other people's problems, because her problems were the most important, especially when she was obsessed with Paxton. Her obsession with Paxton definitely drove a lot of the story as well.
Yeah. I love the fact that, I think a lot, like you said, add grief to typical teenagers and it's a whole powder keg. So I loved how real that was. And you're right. At times she was a very horrible friend, but then you also saw the moments when she was a good friend or when she tried to be a good friend and it sometimes flew up in her face.
Yes.
But some of the relationship, I loved her relationships with Eleanor and Fabiola, even though at times, she wasn't always the best friend that she could be to them because she was going through her own stuff. And teenagers are self-centered by nature, but ultimately she was there on Fabiola's coming out journey. And Eleanor's problems or her issues with her mom. I like that. But the relationship that I really liked that I wish they would have shown more of is her connection with Paxton's sister. They were so cute and I loved Paxton's sister. And I liked also how they showed a lot of the backstory for the other characters. Like each character, with the exception of Paxton, which kind of upsets me a little bit, got their own episode where you kind of really saw what was going on in their life.
Yeah, that's what made me like Ben. Yes. Like I really liked Ben. I like the dynamics of her and Ben. Now, granted, I'm not on board with her and Ben kissing in the last episode. I'm not on board with that. But I did like the dynamics of them. I love how, even though they used to go at each other all the time, you could tell like they still cared about each other. They grew to really care about each other, because one scene that I really, really like is when she comes into the class and they start going at each other back and forth, and then she's asking him like, where's her friend? Like she was like, oh, have you seen Eleanor? Have you seen Fab? And he's just like, oh no, because they're not my type. And she was just like, yeah, now is not the time for you to be having this conversation about your type. I really don't care. And then he sits there and realizes she's really actually worried. He turns around and asks her like, no, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And so it goes from like them snipping at each other to actually showing that they secretly cared about each other. And you can also tell that he really did like her. And she had to get to the point where she realized that he liked her and that she liked him as well. But Ben was definitely a character that I slowly grew to enjoy on the show. Not necessarily Paxton though. Like, I think they made him too much of an idiot, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I understand Paxton didn't have to be as smart as she was, and I get that, but they made him too much of an idiot for someone who was in an AP history class, first of all.
Yes, how does that make sense? That he has to retake his history class and he ends up in AP, but you have to retake it. Like, that don't make no sense to me.
Yeah, and there were moments like I agree with you about the kissing Ben at the end. I was not crazy about that either. And I loved how that relationship grew, but I liked it more with them just being friends. I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm 100% Team Paxton, but I also think that she and Paxton brought out different sides to each other. And it really, I think I grew to, because, Paxton is gorgeous. He is. And I thought, okay, this is just going to be the stereotypical popular jock who the nerd falls in love with, and then he's going to turn out to be do something really asshole-ish to ruin it. But she's the one who actually did the asshole thing, and you saw how much that affected him, because he really did think of her as a friend. Especially once he understood that she wasn't trying to use his sister to get to him, or that that she and his sister actually had they were building a friendship or a relationship, and they really did connect on a level that had nothing to do with him. And so and that's why I say I regret the fact, or it kind of bothered me that they didn't give Paxton his own centered episode where you saw more of his backstory, because you saw that there was more to him than just the dumb jock, is what I'm getting at. And again, I'm not saying I'm Team Paxton or I'm Team Ben, but I was just like, okay, so there was potential in that character, is what I'm getting at.
There you go. I will agree with you on that. I do think that there is potential with the character of Paxton. Now, where that potential is and what it is, I don't know. But I do know that there is potential where, that's why I felt like next season, please tone down the whole dumb jock thing that y'all had him doing. Like, please tone it down. Like, it just doesn't make no sense to me whatsoever. It's not realistic to me. I don't feel it's realistic. I believe that it is something that happens a lot in TV, but not necessarily in real life. So
yeah, because
gains some real personality, and we get to see that development when the second season comes around.
Yeah, because you saw it. Like I said, there were moments. Like he had real moments when they were at the school and they were having that ceremony, that religious ceremony that they have where they were praying to the elephant god. I can't remember the god's name, but and she seemed like she was kind of embarrassed. And then she was just going on and rambling about the different types of Indians, like trying to explain, well, they're not all Muslim and they're not all Hindu, and you have all the, and he was like, you don't have to give me the Wikipedia page on your culture. I get it. It's fine, you know. And she was just explaining how hard it was, how people thought some people thought she was too Indian. Some people didn't think she was Indian enough. And he was just like, who cares? Be you, you know? And then he told her, he was like, and he was like, I don't think you look dumb in that outfit. He's like, I actually think it looks pretty cool. And it's just like, okay. So there were moments where he had real human moments where he wasn't the stereotypical dumb jock. And that's more of what I want to see. And I guess that's why I couldn't say, like, automatically, I guess you're supposed to root for the cute jock guy, but I couldn't automatically just jump on that fence, because it's like, why do you want her to be with someone so stereotypically dumb? Like, what else is like,
he's not, character? He's not on her level. Like, what kind of conversations are you going to have? Like, I felt like it's kind of showing that all the conversations they're going to have is her awakening conversations, right? So he'll be a lot of her first, but that'll be it. Like, when it comes to her level of intelligence and being able to talk about real life stuff, like, no, like, you won't be able to talk about that with him because he don't know nothing. So please resolve that issue in the second season, because that is not a realistic view of matches in real life. Like, it just does not happen that way.
Yeah, and I loved when she was talking to her therapist, Niecy Nash's character, Dr. Ryan. She was like, I don't care who he is. I don't care if he's smart. I don't care, you know, I just want a boyfriend. And Dr. Ryan was like, no, you don't just want a boyfriend. You do care about the things you're saying you don't care about, you should actually care about.
Oh, is that when she showed her the picture and she was just like, no, I'm not going to scroll. And she was like, no, scroll. And then she scrolled up and she was like, damn.
No, that was like the first episode. That was before her and Paxton actually became friends and started trying to figure it out. But that was the very first episode where she made up her mind, where she come up with this list and decided that they were all going to rebrand themselves. And she was like, I just want a boyfriend.
And she was trying to be her boyfriend.
Yeah, when she was trying to go after the obvious gay dude. And I'm like, really?
Like, why? Everybody knew he was gay.
You know, it's like, even if he hadn't come to that realization, everyone knew. Like, the first thing someone say to you is, isn't he gay?
You know what that kind of reminded me of? To All the Boys I've Loved.
Yeah.
Like, her letters went out, and one of the letters went to the guy, and then he follows her into the bathroom when she runs away. And he's like, you do realize I'm gay, right?
And he's like, but no one knows. And then he tells her, like, everyone knows.
Yeah, but she was like, I did know, but like, now I do. Like, confirmation on him being gay. And I was just like, the same thing. Like, everybody knew. Like, how do you somebody like that?
So, I did like it, even though she was a neurotic hot mess. And I loved her cousin. Like, her cousin Kamala, she, even though, you know, she was supposed to be the beautiful older sister and she was the hot PhD, girlfriend had good taste in men, okay?
Yes, she did.
Because Steve, the track coach, he was a look and a half.
It was so cute.
And it was funny how Davy's mom knew her and Steve were going out the whole time. She was like, the walls in this house are not very thick. And she was like, and I would hear him on the roof running across my roof and see him jumping off of the windows. I've known. But
it's like when Davy first like caught her, and she like walks in the room and she's making out with her boyfriend on the bed, and she's like, wait, so like, how well do you know, like, do you know our roof well? And he's like, yeah, I know like the different ways to get in. And she's just like, shut up. Like,
but it also, you know, because a lot of times when you see these movies where matches are made, or these shows where matches are made, the guy turns out to be this total ugly toad who has nothing going for him, who's just an asshole. But this guy that they chose for her, he was another look and a half, okay? I was like, ooh, Kamala's gonna have a love triangle, so I'm really interested to see how that works out, because he seemed so nice. They had a lot in common, and he was gorgeous. Like, he was the total opposite of what everyone had been expecting for like the first 8 or 9 episodes until we actually get to meet him. He was
understanding as well of the situation. You
yeah
know, of what they were being forced into, as well as her own situation and what she was going through, having her boyfriend and everything like that. Like, I just think like that was really cool.
Yeah, and how they decided just to like take it slow and see where it goes, just, you know, like be friends or first or whatever, and just actually get to know each other rather than allowing their parents to dictate that. I thought that was really cool too. But I was just like, yeah, he was amazing. So what did you think about Fabiola's coming out story? Do you think they handled that well? Or I know you're sensitive to those things.
No, but you know, like, I mean, no, but I feel like I am very everybody knows, like, I have a very, very open mind when it comes to those things, but I like seeing different reactions to it. I like the fact that nowadays you have a lot of coming out stories and you're thinking like, oh my God, like, why are people reacting that way? But it's also very realistic. It's really realistic on the different reactions that people have. And a lot of times people are very confused and they don't know how to respond and they don't know how to react to that. And that is the reason why a lot of teenagers hide who they really are from their parents and their friends and everyone around them. But I do love the fact that there was a slow development between her and the girl.
Eve?
What's her name, Eve?
Yes.
Yeah, like the slow development on her discovering who she was and becoming accepting of who she was as she started to build a bond with her. You know, there were ups and downs, but just building that bond with her in the beginning and realizing like, no, like, I really am attracted to this girl rather than this boy right here. Like, I'm really attracted to this girl. I really like that. I like seeing that development and coming into your own and accepting who you are.
I liked it too. I think, and her mom's reaction was very real.
Yep.
It was, hey, you just hit me with something big. I love you. I understand, but it's going to take some time. Like, I don't know how to react to this right now, but do know that I love you, you know, and I may not be all the way there yet, but I'm going to get there, you know? So I think that was I liked that reaction. That was probably, and you know, you do have the ones who just go from 0 to 100 real quick and be like, hell no, this is not happening. This is not who you are. I'm glad they didn't go that route. You know, I'm glad that they took a different route, because usually that's what we see. So I hope that we get to see more of, I won't necessarily say the struggle, but I hope we get to see more of the speed bumps with not only her acceptance of it, but her parents, and just the different ways that people would really react to that, instead of everyone just being either all on board or B, not dealing with it. I like the somewhere in between.
The growth, you know?
Yeah.
I love seeing the growth of, and one thing I do love to see is even when parents are not fully on board, I do like to see where we're like, okay, look, like, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I love you. You're going to be my daughter for the rest of your life. Like, I'm not kicking you out, but you have to give me time. And that's an honest conversation that a lot of parents who go through that need to have with their child, is you got to give me time. Like, you can't expect that all of a sudden I'm just jumping on board like automatic. But so I hope the development ends up like that, where you got to give your parents time to get accustomed to that, seeing as how every parent has this image in their head of how their child is going to be when they become an adult. And
like her mom already had the vision board of her marrying Michael B. Jordan in Tuscany, Italy. Like, I could go for that. Like, oh, okay. But, you know, and when Davey said, who wouldn't want to marry Michael B. Jordan in Tuscany, or just marry Michael B. Jordan, period? And Fabiola looked at her like, me? I just told you I'm gay. Like, no. He is gorgeous, but definitely not my type. So.
You probably should have said no, but I'll take Tessa Thompson any day. That would have been a good response.
That would have been an awesome response. So, like I said, there is room for growth. Like, I think Paxton's character, it wouldn't disappoint me if it was one of those things where, and we've talked about this before in other shows, where you will have the main character, the main love interest, whether it's a guy or a girl, where they start off really smart and then it's like they dumb themselves down, or or the writers will make them dumb to think, especially if one of the characters is really smart. And I'm like, can we stop doing that? Especially in teen shows, can we stop that?
And it's always the girl. Why is it always the girl that has to dumb herself down in order to get the boy?
Yeah, but in one episode, what was it? Girl Meets World. Remember how the love interest started off really smart, and then they just the next couple years they turned him
at one time.
They turned him into the complete idiot, and I'm like, that's not even. So, with what I'm saying here is, it would not bother me if Paxton all of a sudden took a whole bunch of smart pills. Like, he doesn't have to all of a sudden just be in all AP classes and become in competition for the valedictorian. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, just drop the dumb, I don't know anything jock facade. Like, if that's the way he wants to act around his dumb friends, but when they're together, just get rid of that.
I think have some type of talent. The one thing that I've always accepted is when you have some type of talent, so then you can.
He's a swimmer. He's an amazing swimmer.
Have some type of talent that is not about athleticism.
He speaks Japanese.
Have some type of talent that's concrete and academic that you can actually show on a daily basis in school. Okay.
He can be taking Japanese in school. Duh.
Jesus, no.
Like, his name is Paxton. His name is Paxton Hall Yoshida. He is half Japanese.
He's Japanese, but that's not something that's gonna change the perspective of him being a dumb jock. It's just not. They're gonna be like her response to hearing him speak Japanese. Oh, that explains the last name. Like, he actually speaks the language. I mean, on having like some type of focus besides just being a jock. It's great, like, he's a great swimmer, but that's a jock mentality. So, like, give him some type of other focus besides just being a jock, being good at sports,
Yeah, and I think, and I guess, like I said, I really don't know if I'm team Ben. I really do think I like her and Ben just as friends. Like, I really like that. I like that they can talk to each other. I like when he was there for her when she ran away from home. I love how they seem to humanize each other a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm against them becoming a couple, but I have to see more than just, so far from what I saw, the kiss at the end, it kind of weirded me out. Like, you knew he really liked her. You got that from the very beginning, but it was like, okay, I don't know if that came for her. I don't know if it came from the emotions of you just being there. You've been my best friend these couple of weeks. You were the last person I ever thought that I would get along with. The emotions of finally being able to start to begin with her dad's death and all of that. So I don't know where that kiss came from her. So I'm still on it.
See, and I am a fan of her and Ben having a slow burn relationship. Where you see the development, where they date other people, and yet there's always this bond that continues to grow between them.
So you're for him being endgame?
Yes, I am for Ben being endgame, definitely. I think that on the outside, he shows a very unfavorable personality, but once she got to know him, she saw like how great of a person he was, and like him just being there for her was definitely a plus. Now, I think that while for him, we publicly saw the feelings for her grow and we saw how much he really, really liked her. I think that the feelings that she had for him also grew, but she was less focused on them because her obsession, all her focus was on, first of all, her dad dying, as well as her feelings for Paxton.
But see,
There was no concentration for anything else. That's what I think.
But see, I don't even think she knows what she felt for Paxton. And that's why I say, I don't know. I can't say. Yeah, exactly. And that's what he started off with. I mean, quite literally, cussing alert. Quite literally, he started off as just a cute guy she wanted to fuck. I mean, literally.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how she went up to him. Like, she just one night decided that, hey, she realized, okay, the gay dude isn't the way to go, so I'm going to go and get deflowered by the hottest guy in school. And she literally walks up to him and says, basically, yo, Paxton, you want to fuck?
She does.
I mean, it wasn't quite that crude, but it might as well have been.
Around that level.
She didn't drop the F-bomb. She just said, yo, Paxton, you want to have sex? Well, okay. You know, there was nothing left there. And so it's like she never, and it goes back to why he was so upset when he found out about the lie she told about them sleeping together. It was just like, you used me, you know. And he really thought that they were on their way to becoming friends. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, I can't say if I'm Team Ben or Team Paxton or Team someone else, because I don't think she and Paxton had the same moments that she had with Ben, because I can't even say she really liked him. I could say she was
obsessed with him. He was just someone like, okay, first she was determined to have sex with him, but she didn't even take the time to realize, and I guess this was just in her grief and her selfishness, about how much he cared about her, or about how he really saw her as a friend and she just saw him as an object. So and also, like, on top of that is like, when's the last time we have seen like two characters who are on the same level actually end up together? Like, it's like, if she ends up with Paxton, I feel like, oh my gosh, like, not again, where I'm supposed to actually believe that this is reality and this really happens so many times, where the nerd girl ends up with the really most popular guy in school. Like, I already saw it with To All the Boys I've Loved. You see it with all these shows. Can I have like a more realistic like development that happens over time, rather than going for the common like decision on just putting her with the popular guy and keeping it moving? Like, come on now.
Yeah, and so, you know, I'm hoping Paxton doesn't turn out to be as dumb as they've made him seem. But I hope there's more growth, and I am really looking forward to a second season. So overall, what did you think? What would you rate it? How many popcorns are you giving Never Have I Ever?
In all honesty, I binge watched Never Have I Ever. I was a little shocked about that. You may be a little shocked about my rating, but I am giving it 4.25 popcorns. I'm going high. And the reason why is because I see the promise and I love the realism of a lot of the characters. Now, there are things that we've talked about that we hope would change. One of them being the character of Paxton, and that they will definitely develop his character more in the second season. But overall, I enjoyed seeing a teenager. I'm gonna be really open right now. I enjoyed seeing a teenager that was not white, that was not super sexualized, that was trying to actually figure themselves out and made mistakes and was clumsy and tripping over themselves a lot of times. I love seeing that. It was very realistic for me to see, compared to a lot of these teen shows that are out there now, all right, where it's like literally grown adults acting like they're teenagers, and I'm just like, you're a little too grown for that. So I really, really enjoyed it. So 4.25 popcorns is what I'm going to rate it. What about you, Eddie?
If y'all could have seen me right now, my mouth was open wide during that whole statement. Like, the rating just took me out. Wow. I'm speechless. I would agree. I'm gonna go with 4.25 popcorns. It's almost a full bucket, but I ate some before I got to the movies. You know?
I tripped. We tripped and we spilled some along the way.
Yeah, but it was good, and I really loved it. And I know I shouldn't have expected anything less from Mindy Kaling, but when you hear teen show, you kind of have to lower your expectations. And I'm glad it did. Like you said, I was pleasantly shocked that it didn't follow the formula. And I watched it, I binged it too. Like I watched it all in one night. I didn't intend to, but it just got so good that I wanted to see the whole thing. And even on the rewatch, it still resonated, and it was still a lot. So I am looking forward to a second season. I do give it 4.25 stars. And I hope that they do develop the character a little bit better than what they have thus far. So that brings us to the end of the show. And join us next week when we will be discussing
Mulan! Woo!
Yes, I let Tammy say that because she is so excited about Mulan. So I'm going to let y'all know, I'm going to keep it real and let y'all know if it was worth my $30, okay? But that's going to be the...
I heard it was. I heard that it was really, really good, but we will discuss that next week and give our real opinion of it.
So until next time, thank you for tuning into the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye!